Hi guys, how you doing? Today we're going to break down what is arguably one of the greatest fights ever televised. This one was suggested to me by a friend of mine, Ollie Beard. Those of you who are familiar with my channel will remember that he's a former Mr. Britain bodybuilder, runs a gym that I go to, fantastic gym, lovely guy, and this is the gym, Unique Physique. If you're ever anywhere near Hazelmere, check it out, it's great. And he suggested the world famous Hobnob fight from Bottom. So we're going to do it, and we'll work our way through the fight, and we'll see how it pans out. If for those of you that aren't familiar with it, and I'm suspecting that most of you are familiar with this fight, it's from the episode Sout, and it's when Eddie and Richie have decided to spend the night roughing it on Wimbledon Common. Eddie brought some tins of food along, but Richie failed to bring the tin opener, so they realised that it's not all going according to plan.
Look! I've got a packet of chocolate hobnobs.
Oh, thank God. Oh, Eddie, we're saved.
Thankfully, Eddie was well prepared, and he also brought along some chocolate hobnobs. Now, those of you that aren't from the UK may struggle to get your head around what a chocolate hobnob is. And I'm not going to tell you, because it's far, far more entertaining if you just guess.
What do you mean, we? I'm all right. I don't fancy your chances much.
Oh, have a heart, Eddie. It's your old pal here, Richie.
Exactly. Bugger off!
It's funny how stress affects people in different ways. Richie's clearly very worried that he's not going to be able to make it through the night without some form of provision. And maybe he's right. But Eddie's very sure he's okay, he's fine, he's got his hobnobs. But he knows that if he shares them, he's less likely to be fine. So he's not sharing them. And I think we can only put that down to the stress of the situation. Richie, on the other hand, is not one to just lie down and let fate happen. He's going to fight. If he's going to stay alive, he's got to fight. So he leans forward to try and rip the food, the glorious chocolate hobnobs from Eddie. But Eddie sees him coming, leans back and catches him with a rising back fist across the face and knocks him backwards across the bench. Pretty good start, I think. It looks like Eddie actually knocked one of Richie's teeth clean out. For a moment we see him playing with his teeth. Maybe it's just loose, maybe it's not out. It's difficult to say, but Richie's not gonna accept this. He leans back, he chambers a huge punch and he steps in with this great big blow, but Eddie's too quick. He slips out of the way and Richie's fist smashes into the cast iron side of the bench, clearly doing some serious damage to his hand. Eddie takes advantage of the momentary confusion and grabs the hobnobs, dives across the ground and slips into the small tent, hoping to hide from Richie while he manages to eat the entire packet of hobnobs, which, let's be honest, would be quite an achievement.
Eddie?
Richie can't see him. He looks around. He's nowhere there. He's vanished. But Richie has world-renowned tracking skills and finally manages to pinpoint Eddie's location. I'm sure things are going to change now. Richie rips one of the poles from the tent and starts beating down on Eddie's form underneath the canvas. 1, 2, 3. He changes his grip and he starts stabbing down with the sharpened end of the tent pole. Now I can only assume that this is pretty heavy canvas because it doesn't seem to be doing that much damage, and it would just be horrific if the spike of that tent pole actually got stuck in you. Eddie manages to crawl clear of the tent at the other side and walks around out of Richie's view. Now, I don't know if you know anything about stress hormones, adrenaline dumps, that sort of thing, but one of the responses you get to an adrenaline dump is that you get this almost tunnel vision. The peripheral vision in your eyes starts to close in, and you focus very intently on what's in front of you, so you don't necessarily notice things going on to the side. It's one of the things that you really need to be training for if you do any form of self-protection training. And any decent self-protection instructor will give you strategies to minimise this loss of acuity in the peripheries of your vision. But clearly that's not something that Richie's come across, because he doesn't notice Eddie's gone and crawled around the side until he's stood up next to him. And he's obviously confused, he's not quite with it, he thinks he's finished, he's fine. He turns to his friend, gives him a nod. But that's surely not the end of the fight, right? Of course it's not the end of the fight. Richie realises that Eddie's there, stood next to him. He's still holding the precious, precious Hobnobs. He reaches over to try and wrench them out of his grasp, and the two fight backwards and forwards, and Eddie rips them out, and Richie slips sideways and impales his own face on the top of the other tent pole spike. It's just horrific. One of the first things you learn in any form of first aid or trauma care is that if somebody's got a penetrating injury and the foreign object is still in place, the last thing you want to do is pull it out. It may well be the only thing that's occluding lacerated vessels. Pulling it out could cause somebody to bleed out and die very quickly indeed. But clearly, Richie's either never heard about this or he's just not thinking straight. He pulls the spike out of his own face and turns around, and now he's seriously cross. He steps forward with a great big swinging uppercut, and Eddie, fully aware that if this is going to hit him, is going to finish the fight, leans back a little, but unfortunately for Eddie, he fails to take account of the beautiful life-saving Hobnobs in the packet, and the blow, instead of hitting him, hits the Hobnobs and they sail through the air and land in the dank, dirty water of the marshland, the famous marshland of Wimbledon Common. Richie looks to take advantage of the horror and the shock of Eddie realising he's lost those Hobnobs, the one thing that he knew was going to keep him safe. And he steps in with a big punch, but Eddie quickly comes to his senses and throws a low hammer fist blow into Richie's groin. And as he drops in pain, he catches him with a rising uppercut. Probably, I think, looking at it, using the back fist in a manner very similar to that of Jack Slack and Daniel Mendoza. And Richie drops to the floor, and surely the fight's over now. No, Richie's got one last thing in him. As he falls to the ground, mortally wounded, crippled beyond measure, he manages one last wild punch, and it hits home. Eddie drops to the floor too, and as the camera pans away, we see the prone bodies of our heroes lying on the ground, and the life-preserving, beautiful, all-sustaining Hobnobs gently sinking, forever lost, into the marshland that's claimed so many lives.